Yes, hello everyone. Thanks for being with us today. So we're here to present you our new Fuelarts, Art+Tech and NFT startups report, namely H1, so 6 months of 2022. Just to remind, the essence of the Fuelarts report is to analyze the public data on investments in Art+Tech and NFT startups and the key events which influenced more or less the industry. So this is our second edition. I believe you all have already downloaded our first edition, our yearly report, which was published this March. So to begin with, first of all, let us introduce ourselves. For those who do not know, my name is Denis Belkevich. I'm general partner of Fuelarts, and my today's co-host is Sonia Stabelbein, project manager of Fuelarts. Fuelarts is an investment firm specializing on the art-tech industry. So our mission is to support the development of the emerging Web3 ecosystem, backing daring entrepreneurs while they are building a more efficient, transparent, and accessible art market. Fuelarts was founded back in 2019 by two people, me and Roxana Zarnagar, former COO of Christie's Americas and ex-senior vice president of ArtNet. So our vision for Fuelarts is not only to be an investment vehicle, but first of all, a platform merging the two worlds, the world of art and venture capital. So since 2022, Fuelarts includes three main divisions. Fuelarts Accelerator, which provides tools to support founders of art and tech startups. Then Fuelarts Insights, the media department, and the report is a part of Fuelarts Insights. So Fuelarts Insights shares content and analytics to engage and develop the art tech community. And the third division is Fuelarts Capital, our venture arm. We're investing in accelerator graduates and other infrastructure leaders. So here you can see the QR code of our report. It's already available for downloading. So we're welcoming you to do so even during our presentation. And we're going to, let's say, give you a small snapshot on the most important slides of this report. So, of course, 2022 overwhelmed us with the unprecedented chain of world events, starting with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and followed by global economic crisis and geopolitical instability, where even Bitcoin couldn't guarantee any order and composure. So today all the art-tech community, we want to hear the words of encouragement and hope from parents, friends, our startup co-founders, business partner, opinion leaders, church ministers, and even celebrities. And of course, traditional industry reports play the role of opinion leader as well. So through our work, we wanted to transmit that we're deeply analyzing the market, and the market still has positive trends. So we must remember when an investor enters the new market, he is least interested in cumulative sales volumes, like how much art is traded or how much NFTs are traded. First and foremost, investor looks at three main components: investments in infrastructure startups, research, and market reports. So together, those segments can present him the real state of the ecosystem. And only by seeing positive trends in these segments, an investor makes a decision, namely a decision to invest in Art+Tech startups. Let's jump to the key figures of first half of 2022. So first of all, 123 Art+Tech startups received 2.6 billion in cumulative funding throughout the last 6 months. And it's 237% of the investments for the whole year of 2021, which was 1.1 billion. So last year we were saying like, wow, good. So 2021 is the leader of what will happen next year. So now we can see that it has more than doubled the results of the whole year of 2021, and we still have 6 months in stock. Also, we traditionally look at the market from 2 angles. We divide market into physical art market startups. I mean, the startups which are dealing with primarily with physical objects of art, and digital market and NFT. I mean, those startups who are dealing with digital assets and including NFTs. So only 12 startups from the physical market, they received 99 million, and 111 startups from the digital art market received 2.5 billion, which is good news for the digital art market. But I should admit that in the era of NFT expansion, 99 million for the physical art market startups for 12 startups, so is relatively a good number. Then only 5 startups that received funding both in last 6 months and before 2022 represent the physical market, which is 20%, and 20 startups represent digital art and NFT sector. So Art+Tech and NFT startups founded in 2022, I mean, in the last 6 months, they received a total funding of 64 million only. Will point out what has led to this fact later in our conclusions. But this number amounted to 2.45% of the H1 22 funding of all companies in the sector created in different years. So while looking at the report, you'll see this graph. We tried to show you I mean, all the investments month by month in progression. So we placed 3 graphs. So first of all, investments by month in the first half, and parallel rates of the main financial indicators, namely the capitalization of cryptocurrency market and the Dow Jones index that dominates the physical market. What can we say looking at these numbers? Of course, these markets are quite well correlated, as we see. But we last year we rejoiced at the news when another traditional investor made a serious purchase of Bitcoin. We said, cool. So another let's say billionaire from the physical market trusts digital and NFT, trusts crypto. But we saw the outcome in March 2022, namely investors sold both hard assets and crypto assets in an effort to bail out the cash flow. So in other words, the correlation between the fiat and crypto markets has become very high. And now neither Bitcoin nor NFT can save us from the crisis. Well, previously it was the other way around. And let's look at those months. So the total amount of investments received by 8 companies at the level exceeding 100 million was 1.9 billion, or 74% of the total. So that might be not a very good news. that the remaining 679 million, or 24%, were distributed among the rest 115 startups. But the good news is that an average of that amount between those 115 startups was nearly 6 million per company. So several years ago, we could hardly imagine the situation where an art-tech startup receives such amount during an investment round. I mean, in general. Yes, you will also find the main events of 2021. I mean, the first half, which we highlighted. Those events not only influenced the image of art-tech ecosystem, but in our opinion, are very likely to determine the development of the market in the future. So download the report and look at those numbers precisely. I'm happy to ask Sonia to present the first part of the report.
Yes. Hi, everyone, again. I'm very excited about presenting this report, and I feel it's a very special day for Fuelarts. So the first chapter of this report is dedicated to investors. So first, I would love to show you here a special glossary that we created for this report. And so our objective here was actually to present terms from both traditional and crypto in a very simple way. So the startup founders who are going to be reading this report, they're actually going to have a very clear understanding of both things, like from traditional world and from crypto. So here in traditional, you may see such a simple terms as like VC, hedge fund, angel group, etc. And from crypto, we explain terms such as DAO, crypto, strategist, and others. So jumping to the next slide, I would love to share with you the key numbers. So here, the most important thing is actually that traditional investors, non-crypto, VC, and individual investors, both VC, both fiat and crypto, actually were the most active ones in funding art-tech and NFT startups. So you can see it on the right side of the slide. So you see the traditional ones actually had 51% and individual 22%. And here also in the chart, you may see the companies, the investors that actually made at least 3 investments in art-tech and NFT startups in the first half of the year. So you can see here Animoca Brands being the first one, and then Collab and Currency, Shima Capital, and others. So you can go ahead, then download the report and see all the most active investors in art-tech and NFT in this year. So yeah, in the first half of this year, overall, there were 766 rounds, and overall 640 investors participated in these rounds. So only 13% of them actually made more than one investment in art-tech and NFT startups. And only a very small percent, less than 5% of investors actually made 3 or more investments in this sector. And then the vast majority, around 86%, actually deployed their money only in one art-tech and NFT startups. So the vast majority of investors actually invested only in one startup within this half a year. In this slide, we called it Investor Universe. And so here you can see that on the left side, it's actually all about fiat investments. On the right side, you can see it's all about crypto. So here you understand that we put it in 2 different categories. So you can see it's like institutional here, then strategic, then also we put separately private investors. And we did the same for crypto. You see it's strategic and then institutional. Yes, and then we're talking about geographical spread in our report. So here, nobody's surprised, North America is the first one with US leading. And then it's interesting that the second place, we already came to this term in the first report. We call it decentral, whether that's investors or startups, doesn't matter. So these are investors here, 162, that actually didn't disclose their location. And so we have what? North America in the first place, then decentral, and then actually Asia and Oceania. And it's cool here because on this slide, you can actually see the countries that are leading. And then on the right side up, you can see actually not by countries, but by continents, what is the situation there. Yes, and this slide, I feel it's a very interesting one because so far nobody has presented this information all together. So here we call it Web3 Investment Funds Universe. So according to our research, we found within last year or so, we found 33 specialized funds that actually announced that they're raising funds to deploy money in Web3 startups. And so it's very important to understand here that they're raising enormous amount of money, like 32 billion, but only 1.5 is already invested. And here you can see closer when you download the report that you can see the main funds. So you can see here Andreessen Horowitz twice because there are two funds, also big fund by Lightspeed, Paradigm One, and Electric Capital.
Yeah, so thank you, Sonia. Let's jump to chapter number 2, the ecosystem. As I said previously, we're dividing startups into two categories, like traditional ones and digital NFT ones. But in this chapter, we're showing you the whole ecosystem, because more or less we are living in the same Art+Tech world. So the key numbers here, what should you pay attention to? First of all, the first 6 months of 2022 have added 99 new startups, which is plus 14% to the ecosystem, to the previously circled out ecosystem of 702 Art+Tech and NFT startups. Thus, today the Art+Tech ecosystem, the unified one, is represented by 801 startup in the public investment field. I should put a stress and tell here a bit about our methodology. So what does it mean? 801 startup in the public investment field. Our report is based on the public data on investments in the infrastructural startups from the two sources, which are Crunchbase and PitchBook. So it's like with the, let's say, art market, traditional art market reports. Some of them are focused on auction market data. The others are combining, like Art Basel and UBS, the art market report. They are combining both the auction data and also the data collected from private collectors, from art dealers, which is not public, which is private, but they rely on their own surveys. So here, I mean, Fuelarts is standing for transparency of all the information, which is very important because investors, after looking through our report, could go to those particular resources and check that information themselves. And it should correspond with what we have come up with in terms of numbers of investors. So let's say I'm addressing to the young startups because, you know, the other day, instead of writing to Fuelarts like Dennis or Sonia, please include our investments received into your next report. Please go and register, create your account at Crunchbase or PitchBook, and make your information visible, because otherwise we'll not take this responsibility, even if we check this information and it is correct. So please be sure we are standing for accuracy, especially with financial data. So please be sure you are properly creating and maintaining your startup accounts at Crunchbase, for instance. So once information is there, we'll take it out of there without any exclusion. So in total, those 123 startups received funding in the last 6 months. 25 of those startups already were identified by us back in 2021 in our first report. So the percentage of startups that received funding in the last 6 months amounted to 15.2% from all the let's say, the public ecosystem of 801 startup. So let's jump to the next slide. And here we show the ecosystem in numbers of the startups created. The startups which appeared on the market in terms of numbers of the startups who received funding in the last 6 months, not in terms of the actual, let's say, investments. So here we see, let's say, 42 startups dominating industry research and development. But the first, especially for those who have already read our first report, we can see that something is missed here. And last year, earlier this year, in our first report, there was a special, let's say, segment of startups called visualization. Why isn't it? Because pure visualization startups haven't received any investments in the last 6 months. So today, in other words, today we see that those startups which previously dealt with visualization product, they have joined the development of the metaverses, and they also received money, but as a metaverse startups. As companies that create and develop new technology, we assigned metaverse startups to the R&D category. But in our next report, we would like to categorize metaverse startups differently in a special circle. So let's move to the investments. And what we see here, that content production, namely research and development, R&D startups, they receive the highest number of investments. So not only the highest number of the startups, but the highest number of investments. And that number amounted to 1.35 billion for those 42 companies. And the winners of the previous year marketplaces, from the trade category, they received only 522 million for 23 companies. And of course, less investments received gamify, asset management, and data analytics startups. So among the countries of incorporation that received investments in the last 6 months, the United States also leads with 47 companies. Second place take Decentral startups, 24 companies, while Singapore and the United Kingdom share the third place, 6 companies each. Here we have the top of let's say companies, the chart of the companies, and we see among the first 15 top companies in terms of investment that only 2 of them represent physical art market, namely number 10 and 11, and the first places, the first 9 startups are digital and NFT. Sonia, could you please present separately the classic/traditional/physical art market startups?
Absolutely. So our third chapter is actually dedicated to physical art tech startups. So the key numbers are that in the previous report, we already identified 319 art tech startups, the classical one, the traditional one, and actually this year added only 7 new startups in this category. It's interesting to know that actually only 12 startups in this category received funding in the last half a year. And you can see here on the right side that these 12 startups are put in different categories, so in production, trade, management, and analytics. It's interesting that we also did a research on the co-founders. What is the situation with the co-founders in these 12 startups? So majority of them, it's not surprising, have 2 co-founders. Then 3 of them actually have 3 co-founders. And then we have not only undisclosed locations, but we also have undisclosed information about this matter. So if we jump to the next slide, we see that half of these 12 startups is actually in research and development, then 4 of them in management, and 1 in trade and 1 in analytics. So here we see the numbers already. So research and development startups received 54 million altogether. And here in the chart, you can actually see the companies that received the funding, not only this year, but we also put the information, what kind of funding they received altogether throughout the years. Same goes with management. 4 management startups received 38 million. You can also see in the table here the companies and all the information above, and 1 company trade and 1 analytics. So here we have the geographical spread. So again, 8 startups from North America received 58 million altogether. Here you can actually have the chart as well with the countries with all the information. Then the second place takes Europe with 2 startups that received 35 million, and then 1 African startup that received 6.
Cool. So thank you, Sonia. Let's proceed to the digital and NFT part of the ecosystem, of the Art+Tech ecosystem. So as usual, let's study this data from this angle to the ecosystem of 383 startups that represented digital and NFT market and had received funding by the end of 2021. So the next 6 months, the first 6 months of 2022, added 92 new startups, or 24%. So today, the Art+Tech and NFT ecosystem is, the digital one is represented by 475 startups. Here we see roughly the same number of startups in all categories, except for data analytics and content creating startups still predominate. Let's wait for the conclusions. We'll for sure explain why it happens. So regarding the numbers of investments in digital art market segment, again, research and development, content production startups, they received the highest number of investments that amounted to 1.3 billion for 36 companies, and then goes trade with 516 million for 22 companies, and less investment received gamify, asset management, and data analytics. So among the countries with incorporation of digital and NFT startups that received investments in the first months of 2022, again, the United States leads with 41 companies, and second place here we take decentral startups with 24 companies, and again, the United Kingdom and Singapore share the third place. So now I'd like Sonia to present or at least start presenting the results of our own survey. Those who have read our first report, you know that along with the public data, we create our own surveys and ask both startups and Art+Tech market strategies, 2 separate groups, about, let's say, the results of the certain period and their expectations. So let's start with the results and startups.
Absolutely. So yes, Dennis just mentioned we did run the same kind of surveys last year when we were creating the first report, and we kind of decided to do the same to analyze what's happening with the market and to see the perspective of both startups and strategists. So when we were running this survey for startups, we actually got very curious about their current situation. So here on the right side, you can actually see all the situation, all the information about the startups, what are their current status, what investments they've received, the employees, and everything. But actually, we got very interested in what kind of challenges they actually faced in the first half of 2022. So we identified 3 main challenges that were listed by most of Art+Tech startups. So the first one was expanding sales channels. Second was actually managing investor relations. And the third one was fundraising, strategic, and team issues. So in the first half of 2022, most of the startups actually listed one of the key solutions in finding new investors. It was actually by word of mouth. Other things that actually helped startups to get new investors was recommendations from friends and networking at conferences. So 28% actually decide to separately mention and highlight that mentors and current investors actually really help them in fundraising. And it's interesting to note that these professional tools that many companies are using, such as LinkedIn, Crunchbase, or PitchBook, actually didn't really work for our tech startups during the crisis. So it's interesting that around 80% of respondents actually did receive funding in the last half a year. And 56% of investors actually who were thinking about investing prefer to follow the market further. So only around 10%, 11% of startups actually were forced to reschedule and proceed with fundraising further. And what is positive to note, actually, that 72 survey respondents, actually none of them received direct refusal when they were doing their fundraising.
Thank you, Sonia. So let's jump to the strategies. But before, I'd like to share my vision of the information presented by Sonia. Also the number, 78% of the startups who took part in our survey from all that 900 plus. We also included young stage startups not listed in Crunchbase yet. So 78% of those who took part in our survey, they said they received funding, which is actually true. But why such a big number? Because those startups who received funding throughout the last 6 months are most likely to respond to our survey, because they are in a good mood. They have nothing to lose. They don't want to. They don't have to struggle every day. With their investors. So yes, that may sound like a joke, but it's not. So startups in good mood, they respond. Let's say they take this survey with I would say more respect. So let's jump to the strategist part. And 83% of strategists see the crypto recession as the biggest threat to the current Art+Tech and NFT market. And at the same time, the threat of global crisis in the flat market, in the fiat market, traditional asset market, worries only half of the respondents. Here we should confess that, let's say, 70% of the strategists who have responded to our survey represent traditional Art+Tech market or traditional art market, which means that they are, they understand that traditional art has much more secure potential as an asset. That's why, and we already know how thanks to Man Moses research work in particular, or better say works, because they had a lot of papers. So we know how the traditional art market reacted on 152 crises previously. So let's say the traditional strategists, they take the global economic crisis, let's say, with less worries. So, but the NFT and crypto crisis is something new. So the next observation, at the same time, none of the strategists indicated crisis-related trade restrictions as a threat. Which means that yes, the market has already adapted to these trade restrictions during the COVID-19 pandemic, and now we can say literally trade restrictions never heard. So yes, unfortunately or fortunately, trade restrictions are not frightening the strategists. But the same big number, 83% of the strategists consider it's inevitable that the market will turn towards physical art, which behaves more predictably as an asset in times of the economic crisis, right? And the same conclusion which we made, let's say, several slides ago, this in particular may lead to an increasing role of fractional ownership and traditional art investment instruments offered by physical art and tech startups. And I'd like my colleagues to go to the next slide, which would confirm that. Yeah, what a surprise. So yes, we should understand that predictability of the art of the art assets would mean a lot during the economic crisis, which is more or less prognosed at the moment. So in that terms, classic or physical art and tech startups will have more attention focused on them, also in terms of investments. We've made also great interviews, case studies, and we're grateful to all the participants. We have 6 fantastic materials. I'd like Sonia to present them briefly.
Absolutely. We're very proud of this section, and we got 6 different interviews with 6 opinion leaders who are talking about art tech and NFT space from their professional but very different backgrounds. So the first one I would love to present to you is with Manish Mehta, head of finance and operations at Galaxy Labs, and we got his perspective on the market. He also shared Galaxy Labs investment strategy. He described investment in Maloka startup, and he also shared his perspective on future of NFT in general. The second interview we did was with Ryan Zurrer, VC investor, famous NFT and art collector, founder and director at Dialectic AG. And it was a very fascinating interview we did with him because he actually shared with us his path into art collecting. He also shared with us his perspective on NFT artists and NFT and digital assets in general. The third interview we did was with Hugh Heslep, CEO of Art+Tech. So basically, this interview was dedicated to Art+Tech, the story behind it, and how Art+Tech are different from all other platforms, and basically describing their success story. Then we did an interview with Marek, co-founder of Artfacts and Limna. In this interview, we talked about story behind Artfacts and Limna. We talked about Limna app as a new art advisory app for collectors, and Marek was describing to us why it's an essential tool for art collectors all over the globe. And we got this perspective from him as well. So after that, we did an interview with Ariel, Hudes, head of Verso, and it was a fascinating interview where we got to know more about Verso, how it operates, what kind of Web3 hub it is. And we also got to talk about their recent partnership, the famous one with Art+Tech. Exactly. So, and the last interview we did was with Jeff Eshleman. So it's a VC expert and managing director at Amadeo Global. And we got his professional perspective on the current state of the market. He also shared with us tips for startups, how to fundraise in a low market. And he also shared with us tips for both investors and startups, how to monitor the market professionally and how to understand the state of the market better.
Thank you, Sonia. So we are almost near. So the conclusions on the report, and I would propose to read them one by one, sharing our Fuelarts opinion on that. So the first, it's all about labs, right? I mean, everyone today wants to be the next Lavra Labs, Yuga Labs, Dapper Labs, Layer Zero Labs. And not only according to the number of startups, but also due to the investment attention and that investor interest in content creators is not surprising, because last year we saw the same with the marketplace, with the trade value chain link. Now we have R&D, content creation. So according to investors' opinion, and we also share that, The marketplace market is well stocked, but let's say further sales growth requires fresh ideas and high quality assets. So we're looking, investors are looking for the next Bored Apes and for the next CryptoPunks. The only thing I'd like to mention and to point out, for the second time, I'm addressing to young startups. Please don't artificially glue the name Labs to your startup. If you're not a content creator and, because the saying we experienced 5 years ago with blockchains, like blockchain gallery, blockchain auction house, blockchain whatever plus blockchain. So last year it was NFT or meta something. You will not, of course, you may attract investors' attention, but if you are not corresponding to the, let's say, the name of your startup, if neither Meta nor Labs doesn't reflect your traction and the essence, the mission of your startup, it will not work.
Right. So the second conclusion we call the best and the rest. So we kind of believe that the funding situation for art tech and NFT startups is kind of similar to the art market in general. So there are blue chip and others, meaning that the total amount of investments received only by 8 companies actually amounted to 1.9 billion in first half of 2022. And then the rest received actually 679 million for 115 startups. So we can see here such a big gap between these 8 companies that received enormous amount, more than 74%. And then we see the rest distributed among 115 startups.
Thank you. Conclusion number 3, it's briefly called crypto with ratio. So despite the obvious advantage of digital and NFT startups, the main investors in the first months of 2022 were traditional players like classic VCs and individuals. This can be explained by 2 factors. First, traditional VCs didn't want to miss the hot digital market opportunity by means of paying with the assets they had at the time of the transaction. So they invested their money, especially, let's say, when the time of the investment round has been determined long ahead. Second, crypto investors, they decided to hold their funds, expecting for the capitalization of the main cryptocurrencies to grow. So we can literally say that the first half of 2022 is the struggle between crypto and ratio.
Right. So the fourth conclusion we have is investors are testing water. So around 86% of investors actually only made one investment each in infrastructure startups. So we believe that there are few chances for startups to actually develop this niche because we're now having both crypto and traditional market going down.
Thank you, Sonia. So yes, we have circled out 3 main investment portraits, like pre-planned, last minute, and postponed. So let's get back to the cumulative record of which showed us first half of 2022, 2.6 billion. So what does this number tell us? This is a combination of several factors. So first of all, we should understand that most of the later rounds are planned many months in advance, including prior arrangements and number of participating investors. So let's say 8 of the startups from 123 which received money in the last 6 months. 8 who received whose investments have exceeded 100 billion. So those investments rounds were planned long ahead back in 2021, for sure. At the same time, the startups in our ecosystem received about 2.2 billion, regardless the economic crisis and bear market of crypto assets. So we should understand that that money was planned ahead. About 400 million more investments, the rest were dictated by the desire of the investors to be in time to place money in a rather risky but promising area before the crisis begins. So it's like hedging risks. Yes, hedging risks on a very, very risky market, but you will, as you will see from other, let's say, consequences from our report, this strategy also works. I mean, it is called predictability of the market, and you can know more about market predictability from the interview case study number 6 by Jeff Eshleman. So the rest of the funds, as Sonia said, she was responsible for the first section investors. So you saw the timeline and the funds which accumulated 23.6 billion. So those funds are waiting for a state of certainty. Either the market will grow and investments will continue, or this further recession, or the market will experience further recession, and we'll see the massive M&A, merge and acquisition procedures with the discount, which is very favorable for investors. So they are looking for, those funds are looking for market predictability, as Sonia previously said. From that 23.6 billion, only 6% have already been invested. The rest are frozen, but those more than 20 billion are waiting for Web3 startups and Art+Tech startups in particular.
Then we have investment relations is key point. I feel like we touch it almost in every webinar that we organize and we moderate. Doesn't matter who is the guest, but we also always talk about how important it is actually to build investment relations. And we believe that here relations is the key word. And by building actually trusting and long-term relations, actually that can influence success of any startup.
Blockchain wars, like Star Wars, but we have blockchain wars. Yeah, we back in early 2022, we at Fuelarts, we predicted blockchain wars in our newsletters, like the competition in this market area between the blockchains. They are struggling for their audience, for the number of transactions, which increases the capitalization of the cryptocurrency associated with this particular blockchain. And now we see the competition between Tezos, Solana, and Polygon and Immutable. So in terms of the audience, so this trend was partly confirmed in H1 2022. So the largest blockchains became more active in terms of grants for startups, in terms of acceleration, specialized acceleration for startups using their blockchain as a technology, as well as targeted funding in the level of investment funds. We see Solana Ventures, we see Polygon Ventures, and their activity on the market. Dedicated Web3 and Art+Tech and NFT funds.
And then we have BlackRock has not impacted the market, well, yet. As probably most of you have heard that BlackRock Capital actually had an alliance with Coinbase, and it was big news of this August. And we did see some changes in the market in August, but overall, we haven't seen any exact impact or consequences of this alliance. Many have commented that it's like a legendary deal and it's going to have very big impact on the industry, but so far we haven't seen exact results. And this autumn and winter, we'll see how this big event will actually influence or not the industry.
Thank you, Sonia. So probably the pre-last, the ninth conclusion, and probably it's one of the most important, essential conclusions of the whole report. So we observe a certain fatigue in the crypto market as the main source and the crypto market is the main audience for digital and NFT startups. And here we come to the term which has been lost in white papers and all the crypto manifestos, smart contracts since 2018. This word is utilities. And utilities is the actual benefit of owning NFTs. And in our opinion, utilities will determine the success of the startups in this sphere. We have to admit that the new generation is, forgive me, but fed up with the ephemeral benefits of the crypto world. We can retold them by the national motto of France, which is sounds like liberté, égalité, fraternité, which means liberty, equality, and fraternity. So the new slogan for the next years, if not decades, should be utilité, 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 utility, utility, utility. Young startups, please think of the real value which you bring to your audience, which you bring to your customers. It's more than important, and investors understand that. More and more every week and every day.
And the last conclusion for today is physical market on parade. Well, as Dennis previously said today, that we understand and the strategists understand, well, according to our survey that we did for this report, that we should come to assets of the physical market once we're in crisis. And so if that's going to be the case, we should also understand that the ecosystem that is actually going to be supporting these assets of the physical market will be in high demand. So it should be well developed by then. So I think this is an important conclusion to understand to anyone who is going into the space, and they should take that into account.
Thank you, Sonia. So yeah, we're almost near. I'd like to thank and to name all the Fuelarts team who took part in this research. For that second time in a row, we are asked, why does it take you 10 weeks to create a report after the certain period is finished? Like you issued your first report in March, then now it's 15th of September, and you're analyzing, let's say, the first 6 months till the July 1st. So we should confess, the first 4 weeks are for putting all the information together and analysis. Then the second 4 weeks for the design. If you like the report, if you consider it not to be only eye-catchy, but also pleasant to read, pleasant to look through, and easy to navigate, it takes 4 weeks. And the final 2 weeks are used by Fuelarts to find gaps and bugs in our reports, and probably you will still find some. But yeah, two weeks of finding bugs there and correcting all the mistakes. So thanks to all of us. Let's start with the second line, because Dennis is not here. He's everywhere. So yeah, I'm grateful to the content and research provided by Sonia Stavelbein and Daria Rzhavtseva, and our strategic advisory team, Roxana Zarniger, the co-founder of Fuelarts, our investment partner, Katya Cohen, and our friend from Amadeo Global, Diego Berro. He has very exciting interview in the first report. So please also download it if you haven't done that before and read. So PR support is provided by the Ecuadorian company Teachers Art Management, led by Anna Shvets and her team, Ksenia Listikova, Maria Bajenova, and Veronika Smirnova. So SMM, who has put all that together and who brought our today's audience and who's responsible for all the Fuelarts news and so on, Olena Yara. And of course, SMM Media, those bright pictures are the artworks of Yana Barkova. So, but the whole supervision of the report and the art direction and the design of this report is made by Alexei Kokhanov from Ukraine. So thanks everyone, and again we're encouraging you to follow this link and to go to our website and to download this report for free. We're staying in touch, we're staying online, we have already started preparing the next report, of course. Because the collecting the information should be a continuous process. And but we're staying in touch, we're staying online, and whatever happens, we should understand that if the crisis will be, if the crisis still awaits of us around the corner, we should understand that this time is the time for opportunities. First of all, opportunities to create and to develop your own community, opportunities to show to your investors through the investment relations. Investment relations should be polished and are considerably developed just in the time of the crisis, because investors should see how can you resist to the crisis in terms not only of the team building and psychology, but also how you can find new opportunities, be flexible, pivoting your business during crisis. And of course, for investors, crisis also means time for either securitization their assets or for opportunities, because you never know, you can find the new unicorns. And the previous crisis, the crypto winter, showed us that the first unicorns like OpenSea, Super Rare, Known Origin, and Art Blocks were created right in the time of the previous bear market in 2018, from 2018 to 2020. So thanks. I will please read the message on the Facebook page. Yes, we'll do that. Thanks for everyone. Very interesting to see all these numbers. Thank you, Martin. Are you recording? Yes, you can get back to this speech, to this webinar online presentation of the report.
It's going to be available on YouTube anytime.
Sure. And besides YouTube, please subscribe to our Telegram channel, to our Twitter, to our LinkedIn page, and also to our newsletter to know the news from the first hand. And as soon as we're in the center of the Art+Tech ecosystem, so sometimes some of the news you will hear from us as, let's say, the first spreaders of those news. Also, we have established a Art+Tech and VC community on our on LinkedIn. So please join this group, and here you can communicate with investors, startups, investors directly. This is our goal. So as I said, we have started preparing the new report, and also this fall there will be at least 3 news from Fuelarts, which we believe will positively surprise our audience, surprise the Art+Tech and NFT community. 1 paper, 1 collaboration, and 1 great investment news. Thanks to all of you. And yes, download the report and staying in touch.
Thank you.